Hello everybody and welcome back to another Reddit Stories video. These videos are a lot of fun to make and record, and you guys seem to enjoy them, so I decided to make another video. And if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel. The channel's goal is 250,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so please consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And alright, anyways, let's get into the first story. Someone was living in my attic for months. Just left 27 minutes ago. I'm freaking out right now. I can barely type. My hands are shaking, pale. I work at home and mostly at night. My neighborhood is noisy during the day, so I usually sleep with a very loud fan on and with my earbuds in, so I wouldn't likely know if something strange was going on during the day. At night, I listen to music via headphones while I work. I don't hear much these days. I moved into my duplex 5 months ago, and the neighbors on the other side of my bedroom wall were always yelling at each other, throwing things, playing bass music, and just being generally horrible. It got to the point where I moved out of my bedroom and into the living room, but I could still hear them. I got used to banging on the walls and all sorts of racket, and started using my fan and earbuds all the time. I always attributed noise from above to the hoodlum kids next door. The duplex is poorly built, and units are not at all isolated from one another, so if they slammed their front door, I could feel it in my bathroom floor, even though they are far apart. The neighbors from hell got evicted for some unknown reason and have been gone for a couple of months. I finally had some peace. But occasionally, I would hear bangs in the ceiling. I would take out an earbud and turn off the fan, and there would be nothing. I have new neighbors now, but they are very quiet. Still, even when their place is empty, I hear these bangs every once in a while. I moved back into my bedroom a couple of weeks ago and heard the sounds more frequently. Eventually, I decided to investigate. There's a sort of loft in my garage, and we do get raccoons around here. One day I climbed up there with a flashlight. To my surprise, the loft isn't limited to the attached garage. This little room extends all the way back over my place, but it is divided from the attic on the other side of the duplex by a plywood barrier. Looking back in there, I didn't see anything unusual. It is an A-frame type room with plywood panels coming out of the sides, leaving only a small pathway to crawl through. So basically, someone or something could hide behind any of these panels and be invisible to anyone looking down this little hallway. I actually saw very little of the attic, but I convinced myself to be satisfied because I was scared to go back there. Not so much of the boogeyman, but because I didn't want to step on a rusty nail or get bitten by something. Anyway, tonight there was a loud bang. I took out my earbuds and turned off the fan. Then, more loud bangs. After that, I clearly heard human footsteps clomping over my head, running towards the garage. Holy shit, every hair on my body stood up and I grabbed my hammer and went towards the laundry room door, which leads into the garage. I stood there for a minute, ready to bash someone's brains in or possibly get mine blown out. Standing terrified by the closed door between the laundry room and the garage, holding my breath, I heard a loud crash. Then the back door of the garage, which leads into my backyard, was flung open and slammed against the other side of the wall. That was not only 10 inches away from me. Holy shit. I heard the jangling of my chicken wire fence and knew the perpetrator was gone. It still took me 5 minutes to enter that garage, and when I did, holy shit. I don't know what spooked the person, but they dumped or knocked an entire survival kit from the attic to my garage floor. There's what looks like a dog bed, a plastic bag filled with cotton, makeshift pillow maybe, empty boxes for canned dog food, one slipper, lots of papers and pieces of plastic, some kind of wooden rack, and a plastic tub filled with cigarette butts and some liquid. Thankfully, only a few smokes spilled onto the concrete. Could be piss in there for all I know. I'm afraid to look in the attic to see what else might be up there. I'm waiting for the cops right now. Here is the attic in my garage, which can only be accessed merely by jumping, grabbing a 2x4, and pulling oneself up. I should have taken a picture of where it leads over my place, but I'm not gonna do it right now. I've been listening to this person for the last 5 months, and they have been listening to me. Holy shit. I guess I need to post an update. Cops came and had me write down a quick history in the events of tonight while they looked around the garage and backyard. They didn't climb into the attic. They didn't take any of the stuff either. I thought they would want it for prints or DNA as evidence, but I guess that was naive. They were here for less than 20 minutes, said they would patrol the neighborhood, told me to keep my doors locked and call if anything else happens. Call 911 if he shows up. Said it happens more often than I want to know. That's it? Yep, lots of sleepless hours ahead. Creeper in the woods. This happened about 13 years ago, when I was a sophomore in college, attending a liberal arts school in Suffolk County, New York. Within the first month or two of freshman year, I had found myself in a very tight-knit group of fellow theater geeks. 6 guys, myself included, and 1 girl, and they all loved horror movies and ghost stories. I had found my crew. Freshman year was tough, but we all held each other up and made the whole experience more enjoyable for one another. At the beginning of the sophomore year, we decided that in October, as the Halloween season was ramping up, we would find a creepy wooded spot in a nearby town some night and scare the crap out of ourselves. We did some research and found that there was a particularly isolated area about 30 minutes away, infamous for paranormal sightings. Perfect. The 7 of us split into 2 different cars and headed out into the night. Allow me to set the scene. You turn off a busy main road, flooded with strip malls and restaurants and whatnot, and you are almost immediately greeted by complete darkness. Again, this area was very heavily wooded. It was essentially a large web of winding roads surrounded by trees, very few streetlights, and very few houses. Without a GPS or a good sense of direction, one could easily get lost in there. We all made sure to have fully charged phones and flashlights, just in case. But the goal was to keep driving until we collectively decided to pull over and go exploring. So per the directions, we made a left off the main road, driving for 30 minutes or so into this dark network, picking directions at random, just getting intentionally lost. Our cars made a turn, and to our surprise, there was a huge log in front of us. We had reached a dead end of some kind, with nothing but trees beyond it. We all got out to see what exactly this was, stepped over the log, and noticed 2 narrow trails leading in different directions. This seemed like as good a time as any to grab our flashlights and do some amateur ghost hunting. We flipped a coin and set off on the trail to the right. The trail was so narrow that we had to walk single file to avoid getting whacked by branches. For whatever reason, I ended up in the back. I'm usually pretty rational and level-headed, but I have to say, the further we went in, the more I was overcome with an uneasy feeling. I kept hearing sounds deep in the woods, unable to shake the feeling we were being watched. But I seemed to be the only one who heard these things, so I shrugged it off as my imagination. And in any case, the whole point of us being there was to get scared, not to mention the fact that we were 7 able-bodied college students. What would we come across that could take us down? We headed down this trail for about 20 minutes, and just when I thought it would never end, we came to a massive clearing. And I mean massive. It was a large, open field of unkempt grass, comparable in scope to a golf course, but not nearly as well manicured. Trees surrounded the entire field, which was so large, we could not see the end of it from where we were standing. I was thrilled to get out of that narrow trail, but I don't think any of us were expecting to find an area so vast. One of us looked to the right and said, "Hey, check that out." We all turned and there was an old, dilapidated house several hundred yards away. The house was completely dark, with no cars or signs of anyone actually living there. We walked over and shined our flashlights at it, and sure enough, the windows and doors were all boarded up. I managed to peer between the boards on one of the windows, and what I could see was an old white couch covered in plastic, but an otherwise empty room. Whoever used to live there, they were long gone. Because there was no way in, and because we all felt sufficiently creeped out by the house anyway, we decided to walk closer to the trail we had come in from, have a seat in the field, and figure out where to go next. We walked towards the narrow trail, but before we could sit, my friend Mark stopped what he was doing. His expression dropped, and he pointed. We all turned, and on a very far side of the field, directly across from where we had come in, we could see someone tall, lanky, and pale, dancing among the trees. And by dancing, I mean it was skipping around, grabbing a tree, swinging around it, and then doing the same to another tree. Basically a do-si-do. The moon was so bright and the woods so dark, it actually took a second for us to really understand what we were looking at. Jay, the 6'4" skeptic of the group, wasn't seeing it. I leaned into him, pointed in that direction, and said, "Jay, look where I'm pointing. Don't you see that?" He squinted a bit, and the second that he saw it, he gasped with everything he had, clutched my arm, and whispered, "What the fuck is that?" What happened next sent shockwaves through all of us. Whoever this was, they stopped dancing, looked in our direction, and started charging straight at us. Without even thinking, we freaked out and ran back to the trail. Yet again, Jay was the only one who didn't see what was happening. He shouted after us, "Guys, what is this? Where are you going?" After about 15 seconds of running like hell, I heard Jay scream, "Holy shit!" I looked back and saw his flashlight following the rest of us into the trail. While the walk into the woods took about 20 minutes, we made it back to our 2 cars, hopped in, and were peeling away and closer to 5. Once we were a safe distance away, we pulled over, got out, and checked in with each other about what just happened. My heart was pounding, and I know everyone else was feeling the same way. Nearly 15 years later, we are all still friends, living in different states, yet keeping in touch through marriages, divorces, children, etc. But occasionally, out of the blue, one of us will send a group text to the others with something to the effect of, "The woods. That really happened, right?" It most certainly did. That experience is always in the back of my mind, and I'm pretty sure it always will be. Here's the thing that still resonates with me about that night. Whoever that was, they were dancing maniacally in the woods at 1 in the morning, and then ran directly for a group of young adults, not at all fazed by the fact that they were severely outnumbered. Did he know we were there from the second we parked? Was he the sound that I kept hearing when we walked the trail? Whatever the case may be, when he came for us that night, you can be sure none of us wanted to stick around and see what he was truly capable of. Someone was sending me disturbing Snapchats. This happened about a month ago, but I couldn't decide if I should post it or not. I'm kind of a paranoid person and didn't know if I was going to deal with something like this again, if I should post about it. But since it's been a month and nothing has happened again, I thought I'd share it. I would like to point out that English is not my first language, so please excuse me for any errors in the story. Here it is. I'm a 22-year-old girl from Bulgaria, studying art in another town. I was back home to my parents' house for Christmas vacation, so this happened a little after New Year's. My parents' house is in a little village near a big town, where I grew up. We moved in the village, and we now live in a 2-story house. I was sitting one night in my room, drawing in my sketchbook, and listening to some amazing horror stories on YouTube, as I usually do. It was about 2 o'clock, and I was immersed in a scary story, not knowing that I would be living in my own horror story real soon. It happened with me receiving a notification from Snapchat that someone added me. I was kind of confused, but still opened it and saw that someone with the username Lappy789 added me as a friend. Now, I would like to explain why this was weird to me. I don't use Snapchat anymore. I just have it on my phone for no reason at all. None of my friends use it, since Instagram got the story thing and we all started to use that instead. I have very little friends on Snapchat and none of them use it, so I didn't think that it was somebody I know. And I don't have my location on or Bitmoji or whatever it's called that can give away my location and my username to people nearby. I don't know if that's what it does. Like I said, I haven't been using Snapchat in a while. Oh, I also didn't have my username written anywhere on my social media. Moving on. Out of curiosity, I added Lappy789 and opened their profile to see if they had a picture or something that could tell me who this was. There was nothing. Only their Snapchat score, which was about 7. I set my phone on my desk and started to rewind the video to listen to the parts that I missed while I was distracted with the phone. As I was getting ready to go back to sketching, when I got a notification that Lappy789 sent me a snap. I opened it and it was a picture of grass, taken with flashlight. I looked at it, confused, and then went to chat box to type, "What is this? Who are you?" Lappy789 received it, then it said that they read it, and they didn't respond. At this point, I started to ask all of my friends if it was one of them, or if they had given my username to someone, but no one confessed. Next snap came, and it was a picture of what looked like a red tile. I was growing very impatient, and once again, I texted the person, asking who he is and if we know each other. They saw my message and didn't respond. Next snap came, and I was prepared to start screenshotting to show my boyfriend. It was a picture of what it looked like a little knob, but I couldn't see exactly what it was. I failed to screenshot it, so I had to replay the snap. When I screenshotted it, I went to look at my picture and realized that this thing was a little closing mechanism on our backyard gazebo. At this point, I'm slowly realizing that this person is sending me Snapchats from my backyard. And by the way, it's not so easy for someone to come to our backyard, as we have a very tall fence and you have to take your time and scout the place around to find a possible way to climb the fence, and it was dark, so it would be difficult. That to me meant that whoever this was, they've been looking around during the day to find a way to get in. I stood up from my desk and ran to turn off all the lights. When it was dark, I tried to peek through my window shades to the backyard, but it was a very cloudy and dark night, so I didn't see anything. Next snap came, and like the last, I was ready to screenshot. When I opened the snap, I nearly screamed. It was a picture of the tip of a ceramic abstract sculpture that we have out in our backyard. I ran out of my room, not knowing what to do. For some strange reason, I didn't want to wake up my dad and tell him what was going on. My mom was sleeping downstairs on the couch, and I was upstairs, trying to figure out how to open the super loud and screechy door to our terrace, without waking up my parents and letting that freak know what I was doing. I battled with the door for about 30 seconds, but I managed to open it quietly and carefully stepped outside to look at the backyard. Didn't see anything. I looked and I looked, trying to stay as low as I can, so that the snapper wouldn't see me, but I couldn't see anything. I went inside, once again, trying my best to be as quiet as possible. When I received another Snapchat from Lappy789, it was a picture of my mom, sleeping on the couch, taken from outside through a crack in the blinds. This freak took a fucking photo of my mom. As shocked and terrified I was, I still managed to screenshot it. At this point, I lost it. I started screaming for my dad. He came out of the bedroom and tried to calm me down as I was trying to explain to him that there was somebody in our backyard. I could see that he didn't really take me seriously, but he went outside anyways, carrying his gun. My mom was awake now, trying to calm me down as I was hyperventilating, failing to explain to her what Snapchat was. My dad came inside after checking everywhere and said that he didn't find anybody. I showed them the pictures and they seemed disturbed now, but said that it was probably a kid or one of my friends just trying to mess with us. The thing is that I don't live in the big town that I lived in before we moved to the nearby village. All of my friends live either in my hometown or other towns in the country, and I don't know anyone in the village that I live in now. So the idea that it might have been somebody I know didn't seem right to me. I went in my room when I calmed down and checked my phone, remembering that I didn't look if I had any new snaps after I showed my parents the pictures. I had 3 new snaps from Lappy 789. There were a picture of our front gate, which I couldn't screenshot, and 2 messages saying, "See you soon. Bye." I immediately blocked the account. I barely slept that night. I texted and called all of my friends, begging them to confess if one of them did it, but nobody did. When I told what happened to my boyfriend, he asked everyone that he knew, but still, nothing. We tried to find the account, but we soon found out that they had deactivated it. There was no one in the name of Lappy 789 anymore. I deleted Snapchat that night and don't think I'll ever use it again. The next day, I went outside to look around and see if the creep left something behind, and I saw footprints on a little muddy patch near the place that they took the photo of my mom. My dad doesn't seem to believe me. It was the footprints of the intruder, saying that it was probably one of us stepping there, but I'm pretty sure they weren't ours. To this day, I still don't know who it was. I've asked everyone that I know, but nothing has come up of it. I still wonder what their intentions were. Were they trying to scare me? Were they stalking me? Who were they? How did they find me? How did they enter my backyard? Do they still send me Snapchats? I wouldn't know. I deleted the app. Creepy man outside my bedroom window. This story occurred a few years back. I would have been around 8 or 9 at the time. My old bedroom sat facing out towards the street. It also happened to be right next to our front door. It was very small, as it had been built in place of our old front porch. The roof was slanted slightly downward toward the window, which took up most of the wall, and the bed could only fit in one way. It was painted purple, not a nice purple either, like a kid's bedroom, of course. My bed sat facing towards the door to my bedroom, parallel to the window. A closet took up part of the corner between my bedroom door and the window, making for an unusual space. Every night, I checked to make sure the curtains were shut all the way, as the idea of people watching from the street made me very uncomfortable, even at a young age where things like that shouldn't even cross my mind. Every night I slept soundly. No nightmares, no sudden noises waking me in the middle of the night. Nothing. That was until the middle of the year, during a school break. I remember waking to the sound of someone breathing. I couldn't move, couldn't catch my own breath. I was just stuck. I remember so clearly seeing a man stood in the corner of my room, stuck partially behind the curtain, as if it would hide him. Of course, I could see him. He was just a dark entity who stood and watched. After what felt like hours, I was able to get back to sleep. In the morning, I told my mom about what had happened, and she explained it was just a strange nightmare and that I was fine. But the way she said it wasn't very believable. These cases of sleep paralysis went on for about a year, taking me up to the middle of the next year, when I was likely 8 or 9. I remember waking in the middle of the night, just like I had most nights for the last year, to the man in the corner. Only this time, I could move. I stayed absolutely still, despite now knowing he was actually there. I could hear his faint breathing, like he was trying to hide from me as much as I was trying to hide from him. I couldn't help but think, has this man been here every night this year? I remember the thoughts I had. How I'd run out of the room and scream for my mom, how she'd call the police, how this man would be arrested and sent away, but I couldn't do that. He was basically in front of the door. I spent the night staring at him, trying to fall asleep. I'd say it was around 5 a.m. I was able to drift off, just sort of as the birds started to wake. I woke up and lo and behold, he was gone. The first thing I did was tell my mom. She already looked uneasy, like she already knew. That's when I heard two people talking outside. I found out later the people outside were my neighbor and a police officer who was taking an eyewitness statement. Around 6 in the morning, our neighbor spotted a man standing outside my window. She called the police, but he was gone before they arrived. Other neighbors stepped forward, saying they'd seen him outside in the middle of the day, looking at our house. There were no signs of a forced entry, only 2 footprints in the flower bed outside my window. My mother told the officers my account of what happened, and they came to the conclusion that he'd done the same thing last year. I saw it, and it sparked my tangent of sleep paralysis. The streetlight outside projected his shadow, so it appeared as though he stood in my room. This whole time, he'd been waiting patiently outside my room. Who knows what would have happened if my neighbor didn't spot him on her way out for work. Just a few minutes, and she could have missed him entirely. Never, ever pick up a hitchhiker. So this was told to me by an old family friend, Nikki, numerous times as a kid growing up, as one of those life advice stories to keep in mind through the years. And to her credit, I've never forgotten it. Whenever anything associated with hitchhiking comes up, it always springs to mind, and probably always will. Makes me a bit ill whenever I think about it, actually. So Nikki, who grew up at the same time as my dad, so this was about early 80s I believe, was a young woman in her mid-20s. She's one of those real, kind-hearted souls, always willing to help another out in a time of need, you know? And I can't imagine her being anything other than that when she was younger, so I totally see her doing this too. So, driving into the city, about a 2-hour or so drive out from town, she saw a man walking down the side of the road. As she neared, he turned and, in typical hitchhiker manner, stuck out the old arm and thumb. Nikki, bless her heart, pulled over and asked him if he needed any help. She told me that he was really polite, if not a bit shy. When he asked for a lift into the city, Nikki gave a smile and popped open the passenger door for the guy, who tossed his bag into the back seat and buckled up for the ride ahead. They talked pleasantly for most of the trip, about friends, the news, etc., happy small talk. She felt that they were getting on really well, and even bought him dinner at the pit stop a little over halfway there. She says he seemed really flustered and awkward when she paid, but one of the things they had talked about was money and how he was pretty dang strapped for cash, which was why he was hitchhiking in the first place. But he eventually relented and they went on their way. As soon as they got into the city, he thanked her profusely for the ride and the food and asked to be dropped off once they hit downtown. Before getting out, he asked for Nikki's phone number so he could contact her someday and catch up. Thrilled at the prospect of knowing how her new friend was faring, Nikki wrote it down for him and drove off with the warm feeling of a good deed done. Now, I'm sorry if you were expecting something creepy to have happened by now, but I think this is what freaked me out so much as a kid. How nice everything seemed to have worked out. Nikki gets this crease in her forehead and a funny look in her eye when she tells me the next part. How a week later, she got a phone call from her driving buddy. He didn't let her get a word in edgewise after hello and told her that she should thank God that she was raised so nice. Because when he first got in her car, he was planning on R-wording and murdering her once they got to the pit stop. That he was going to steal that car and dump her body in a ditch further down the road and go on his merry way. But after she talked with him so kindly and treated him to a dinner with a smile on her face, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He didn't think that he could live with himself after doing that to such a nice lady. And to please, Nikki, please, never, ever pick up another hitchhiker. Then he hung up the phone. Nikki never got a call from him again. When she tried redialing the number, she got a payphone. And so, Mr. Hitchhiker, I know I'm never going to meet you because I'm going to listen to the advice you gave your driving buddy and never, ever pick up a hitchhiker. And alright, that wraps up the true Reddit stories. Yeah, true Reddit stories. That wraps it up. I really hope you enjoyed, and it seems like you guys enjoyed the last Reddit stories video, and it's nice to make something that's not an iceberg, so I'm really glad you guys are enjoying this. And let me know, comment down below, would you like to see more of this? Because I'm happy to make more, because these are amazing to make, so fun to make and research and read and all of that. So please let me know if you want to see more in the future. Like and subscribe. I mean, you're at the end of the video, so subscribe to the video, helps out a lot. Until next time, see ya.